from Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English. My first report today is a reaction videos about TED Talks Walking the Talk. I will be your reactors for today. The first one we will react is a Bad Feminist by Roxanne Gay. Are you ready? If you are ready, let's start. First, let's understand what feminism is meant to be. If you look up the definition of feminism in the dictionary, you'll see these statements. Feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. Second is the theory of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. Third is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. Fourth is the doctrine advocating social, political, and all other rights of women equal to those of men. There's a question here. Before we are going to watch, we will answer the question. What is a feminist? A feminist is someone who supports equal rights for women. The word feminist comes from feminism, which originally meant simply being feminine or being a woman, but gained the meaning advocacy of women's rights in the late 1880s. Next question is it a good or bad thing to be? For me, the word feminist isn't a bad word anymore. So, many incredible women have claimed the term for themselves and opened up conversation about gender equality. Just watch the speech of Miss Roxanne Gay, and then later on, we will answer all the questions.
I am failing as a woman. I am failing as a feminist. I have passionate opinions about gender equality, but I worry that to freely accept the label of feminist would not be fair to good feminists. I'm a feminist, but I'm a rather bad one. Oh, so I call myself a bad feminist. Or at least I wrote an essay, and then I wrote a book called Bad Feminist, and then in interviews people started calling me the bad feminist. So, what started as a bit of an inside joke with myself, let me take a step back. About feminists as hairy, angry, man-hating, sex-hating women, as if those are bad things. These days, I look at how women are treated the world over, and anger in particular seems like a perfectly reasonable response. But back then, I worried about the tone people used when suggesting I might be a feminist. The feminist label was an accusation. It was an F word and not a nice one. I was labeled a woman who doesn't play by the rules, who expects too much, who thinks far too highly of myself by daring to believe I am equal, superior to a man. I began to accept that I am indeed a feminist and a proud one. I hold certain truths to be self-evident. Women are equal to men. We deserve equal pay for equal work. We have the right to move through the world as we choose, free from harassment or violence. We have the right to respect. There's more. When we talk about the needs of women, we have to consider the other identities we inhabit. We are not just women. We are people with different bodies, gender expressions, faiths, sexualities, class backgrounds, abilities, and so much more. We need to take into account these differences and how they affect us as much as we account for what we have in common. Without this kind of inclusion, our feminism is nothing. I hold these truths to be self-evident, but let me be clear. I'm a mess. I am full of contradictions. There are many ways in which I'm doing feminism wrong. I have another confession. When I drive to work, I listen to thuggish rap at a very loud volume. Even though the lyrics are degrading to women, these lyrics offend me to my core. The classic Yin Yang Twins song, Salt Shaker, it is amazing. Make it work with your wet t-shirt. Bitch, you gotta shake it till your camel starts to hurt. Think about it. Poetry, right? I am utterly mortified by my music choices. My favorite color. I enjoy fashion magazines and pretty things. I watch The Bachelor and romantic comedies, and if a woman wants to take her husband's name, that is her choice, and it is not my place to judge. If a woman chooses to stay home to raise her children, I embrace that choice too. The problem is not that she makes herself economically vulnerable in that choice. The problem is that our society is set up to make women economically vulnerable when they choose. Let's deal with that. I reject the mainstream feminism that has historically ignored or deflected the needs of women of color, working class women, queer women, and transgender women in favor of supporting white, middle, and upper class straight women. Listen, if that's good feminism, I am a very bad feminist. As a feminist, I feel a lot of pressure. We have this tendency to put visible feminists on a pedestal. We expect them to pose perfectly. When they disappoint us, we gleefully knock them from the very pedestal we put them on. Like I said, I am a mess. Consider me knocked off that pedestal before you ever try to put me up there. Too many women, particularly groundbreaking women and industry leaders, are afraid to be labeled as feminists. They're afraid to stand up and say, yes, I am a feminist, for fear of what that label means, for fear of being unable to live up to unrealistic expectations. Take, for example, Beyoncé, or as I call her, the goddess. She has emerged in recent years as a visible feminist. At the 2014 MTV Video Music Awards, she performed in front of the word feminist 10 feet high. It was a glorious spectacle to see this pop star openly embracing feminism and letting young women and men know that being a feminist is something to celebrate. As the moment faded, cultural critics began endlessly debating whether or not Beyoncé was indeed a feminist. They graded her feminism instead of simply taking a grown, accomplished woman at her word. We demand perfection from feminists because we are still fighting for so damn much. We go far beyond reasonable, constructive criticism to dissecting any given woman's feminism, tearing it apart until there's nothing left. We do not need to do that. Bad feminism, or really more inclusive feminism, is a starting point, but what happens next? Better choice, and it is so easy to justify a lesser one, but when I justify bad choices, I make it harder for women to achieve equality, the equality that we all deserve, and I need to own that. We can all make better choices. We can change the channel when a television show treats sexual violence against women like sport, Game of Thrones. We can stop supporting professional sports where the athletes treat their partners like punching bags. Claim our feminism, good, bad, or anywhere in between. The last line of my book, Bad Feminist, says, I would rather be a bad feminist than no feminist at all. This is true for so many reasons, but first and foremost, I say this because once upon a time, my voice was stolen from me, and feminism helped me to get my voice back. There was an incident. I call it an incident so I can carry the burden of what happened. Some boys broke me when I was so young I did not know what boys can do to break a girl. They treated me like I was nothing. I began to believe I was nothing. They stole my voice, and in the after, I did not dare to believe that anything I might say could matter. But I had writing, and there I wrote myself back together. I wrote myself toward a stronger version of myself. I read the words of women who might understand a story like mine, and women who looked like me and understood what it was like to move through the world with brown skin. I read the words of women who showed me I was not nothing. I learned to write like them, and then I learned to write as myself. I found my voice again, and I started to believe that my voice is powerful beyond measure. Through writing and feminism, I also found that if I was a little bit brave, another woman might hear me and see me and recognize that none of us are the nothing the world tries to tell us we are. In one hand, I hold the power to accomplish anything, and in my other, I hold the humbling reality that I am just one woman. I am a bad feminist. I am a good woman. I am trying to become better in how I think and what I say and what I do without abandoning everything that makes me human. I hope that we can all do the same. I hope that we can all be a little bit brave when we most need such bravery.
We are back as our reactors, and we are ready for questions about Roxanne Gay's Bad Feminist. The first question we are going to answer is, why does she consider herself a bad feminist? Do you agree? Yes, of course I am agree, because she said this: I am failing as a woman. I am failing as a feminist. To freely accept the feminist label would not be fair to good feminists. If I am indeed a feminist, I am a rather bad one. I am a mess of contradiction. And there are many ways in which I am doing feminism wrong, at least according to the way my perception of feminism have been warped by being a woman. The next question is, are you a feminist? Yes, I am a feminist. Not only me, but we should all be feminists, not only as a commitment to women's liberation, but also as a way of encouraging men to hold conversations with women on sexuality, appearance, rules, and success. Being a feminist entails championing for the rights of women and trying to make the world a better place for women. Can anyone be a feminist? Yes, being a feminist simply means believing in equal rights for all genders. It's not about hating men. It's not about women being better than men. It's not about eschewing femininity. Next is, can only women be feminists? Of course not, because feminism isn't just women's issues. Why do people look down on feminists? What are their valid points? Because whilst actual feminist is all about equality and cares about both sexes, all genders, all race, and all sexualities, that vast majority of those in the media self-describe as feminists. The feminist commentator, the feminist columnist, and so on are not feminists at all, but man-blaming victim folkminists. The difference between a real feminist and the media-supported folkminists is best illustrated by their thoughts on self. Depends for women. I don't know their main point, but here are some reasons. Actual second-wave feminism, late 1970s, early 1980s, pushed for the creation of 10-week women's self-defense courses. Before that time, no such course existed, that reasoning that was women are not helpless. They can defend themselves against rapists, and we know that if every rapist knew that the next woman attempts to rape might injure him, he'd definitely think twice. Their reasoning is that women are helpless. They cannot defend themselves against rapists, and we know that if every man and boy was just taught not to rape, he'd definitely not rape anymore. Why is it important to add race and social status to the equation? Race and social status are important to leftists, particularly because it is a communist and Marxist strategy to manipulate people through identity politics. They think in terms of race. They think in terms of class. They think in terms of any way they can identify a group to leverage them politically. But race and social status are actually unimportant in life. Truly, the only thing that is important is whether one is living correctly with God. If you are good and moral, the minimum wage janitor who is a good father and a loving husband and a God-fearing man. The millionaire CEO who is 3 times divorced, immoral, corrupt, and a liar is a failure, almost certainly living miserably and doomed to eternal torment. What made the speech effective? For me, the speech made effective when she said this: I am just a woman, she concludes. I am a bad feminist and I am a good woman. I am trying to become better in how I think and say and do, without abandoning what makes me human. She concludes with a bow to a standing ovation. Why does she share little anecdotes about herself? Does it help her cause? Yes, it helps her because she accepts herself, because she thinks of herself as a shy person, and when you praise her work, a self-conscious hand rises. Can you relate to the speech? Yes, I can relate to Roxanne Gay's speech because she wants to be an independent and I want it too. Even she's saying that she's failing as a feminist. Is this speech something we Filipinos can learn from as well. I think we Filipinos can learn something here because we are not only talking about ourselves, but all of us people. We can also learn equal rights for each person.